Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us at tmosso@the1916company.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Reach out to us at tmosso@the1916company.com. Today, we're discussing the perfect watch to wear in yellow gold. I've often said yellow gold is powerful. It has a huge visual impact, and so I feel it works best on watches that are traditionally sized and vintage, and this Patek Philippe 5015J Moonphase is both of those. This is the 5015J-001. Now, this example was retailed in 1996, and you can see on the case back, it has 1995 and later hallmarks, so you have a very good idea of when this watch was actually manufactured. It is the officer's style watch, so it has the look of a vintage pocket watch converted into a wristwatch, usually for use by soldiers in the trenches during World War I, when they typically would not have a spare hand to reach for a pocket, and a watch on the wrist had a lot of advantages, both tactically and in terms of life-saving. So this watch right here represents a nod to Patek Philippe's own past, as many of its watches would have been converted to officers' wristwatches during the war and after. The watch is traditionally sized and 35 millimeters in diameter, beautifully compact. This can be considered a unisex option today, as I find a lot of ladies who collect watches are more interested in traditional mechanical watches than quartz and diamonds and tiny pieces. So they like vintage men's watches, and that's exactly what we have. 35 in diameter, 9.7 thick, and 41.2 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, with a 19 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, it is a perfect fit. Look at those lugs, nowhere near the edge of my wrist. I believe you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference. You could see the cuff shot revealing it'll slide under any kind of sleeve, the down the barrel shot showing how much clearance I have on each side of my wrist, and even over the top, which exaggerates the width of the watch, and pulling the strap tight. This watch comes nowhere near overlapping the edge of my wrist. The strap is high grade, but then Patek straps typically are. You could see large rectangular scale alligator leather on the top, black with a monotone stitch, with a polished profile and no crimping, no gouging, a brand new Patek strap. You can see it has a sheer cut side. No pull-tab spring bars on the bottom, because these Patek officer style watches are very old school. The lugs are artisanally welded to the case and then filed to remove evidence of the weld that yields this wonderfully sharp break between lug and case that can't be obtained any other way. This is a handmade case, and to ensure your watch doesn't separate from it, we have screws and bars rather than spring bars fixing the strap to the case. That's also how the officers' watches would have been set up. Lugs welded on, although historically they wouldn't have been welded artisanally, and then the strap fixed with the screws and bars to stay put. You can see we have this lovely vintage style Patek Philippe yellow gold pin buckle to match the watch. And then, yes, we have welded lugs and a beautifully handmade case with a onion-style unbranded crown, as it would have been in the first quarter of the 20th century. We have a lovely and ornate beaded bezel that is a little bit more of a nod to the artistic intent of a modern luxury watch than it is to any historical prototype per se, though some of the converted pocket watches historically would have had this treatment. Now, we have a white dial with a lovely pre-Art Deco font, so the numerals, of course, pre-Art Deco, as Art Deco wasn't a thing until 1925. You can see we have fired hands, and that we have a Moonphase, small seconds, and a power reserve indicator with railroad, or I should say piano key style minutes outboard. Now, this is a white dial, not silver white, but true chalk white. And you'll probably notice that this dial looks a lot like a Nautilus 5712, because it's the exact same movement, albeit an earlier generation of the caliber 240 with Moonphase and power reserve. You can see inside the case back that there's a little guild key back there. Back in 1995 and 1996, when this watch would have been made, Patek was not yet sophisticated enough to build a case this complex with a hinged Hunter reverse, again, like a pocket watch, and these welded-on lugs. So this would have been built by a guild, and the guild number, in this case, looks like it would have been 28. Taking a look at the movement, this is the caliber 240 micro rotor, which generally goes in the more upscale Patek automatic watches, 22 karat gold rotor, and a 48-hour power reserve, 3 Hz beat rate, free sprung with a Gyromax style balance for precision adjustment and shock resistance, 29 pivot jewels. You can see this is the 240/154 variant, power reserve, small seconds, and the Moonphase on the dial side, and then Geneva hallmark. And this is back when Patek still used it. They gave up on that mid-2009. This watch is going to be one for the old guard. You can also see the stripes across the bridges, Geneva waves, engine turning on the base plate, set nation on the wheels, as well as the ratchet wheel stripes on the rotor. You can see that the beveling here, traditionally filed, with black polished screw heads and beveling in the jewel sinks. It is a good looking movement. All this theoretically 30 meters water resistant in its day, but I wouldn't test that theory these days. Doesn't have hacking seconds, but that's germane to all of the 240s. What it does have is beauty and history behind it, as well as rarity, especially in this condition with a boxed set. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.